Yeah, I'm going to be really quick. Welcome to my channel. Got a few things going on today right now, so I have to do this very quickly. Um, the NFL draft happening in Kansas City. Um, a lot of things that were going on yesterday, but more so the fact is like first pick Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. The Panthers choose Bryce Young. Texans, of course, went with C.J. Stroud, and then Colts having the opportunity choosing Anthony Richardson. So you got the three quarterbacks basically chosen the first four picks, whereas the Texans going with the number three pick, traded up for the number three pick for linebacker Will Anderson. Uh, so basically, um, you've got in the first round, first top 10 picks, the top three picks going to the Alabama Crimson Tide, basically, more so. And then, of course, in the first top 10 as well, too, to Ohio State Buckeyes. And then, of course, you've got the Illinois fighting University of Illinois, Florida Gators, Texas Tech Raiders, and such. One of the things I think was a little surprise is the Bears trading to the Eagles, um, where the Eagles went up to the ninth pick and basically picking up Jalen Carter, which it's it's a pretty impressive pickup actually. The man's pretty good there. The question is why would the Bears lose out on a potential highly impactful defensive player, defensive lineman. I mean, it makes sense for them to build up the O line with Darnell Wright. But I think this was a case of like this was the next best defensive lineman that the Bears should have picked up, and basically, and but the Eagles got him, and so now they've definitely strengthened out their defense even more so than it was compared to last year. So look for the Eagles to repeat uh, from last year to this year to the 2023 season, basically. The one thing I'm going to be talking about is basically the Giants. After uh, the 11 and basically after the uh, other picks were going through, basically it seemed like um, there wasn't as many what you would call wide receivers going at one point. But looking at it, basically, sorry, from 11 onwards, 11 to 19, it was just pretty much all linemen, defensive ends and such, and cornerbacks and such. Mostly defense, some offense, of course, with offensive line and such. But it was one of those things where the Jets getting the 15th pick. I mean, they choose a defensive end, which makes absolute sense. I don't know why the Lions would go that high for a running back, to be quite honest. Um, but then after the 20th pick, basically the Seahawks started picking the wide receivers, and so the wide receivers started going at that point to the point where like what the Giants were hoping for were wide receivers, and they started all getting picked. So at that point, the Giants are like, okay, we don't have any wide receivers. We're gonna have to, and that's one of the weakest position players that they have. They have no players in that situation, and what they end up doing is trading up for the 24th pick, giving up two second rounders and a third rounder or fourth rounder to pick up Deontay Banks. Now, Deontay Banks as a cornerback might be good. It's one of those things what they need. They were a little weak on the defensive back end, especially the cornerback. But I think the biggest problem is like their wide receiving core. They invested heavily into Danny Dimes, and rather than surround him with more wide receivers, they're going with the defensive back, which makes absolute sense. I'm all for defense. Defense wins you games mostly than offense. It's been shown, like, look what happened with the 49ers. Same thing with the Eagles. You have a really good defense, you're good. So if the Giants are going to focus, then I would like them to focus on the defense. But you did need a wide receiver, and they didn't get it. Um, so I don't know exactly how this is going to work out for the Giants in this issue. It's going to be interesting. Let's see what happens with the next set of rounds for day two, and see how that works out ultimately for the Giants. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Um, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think the Giants should have picked up a wide receiver? Do you think the Giants will do any good? Quite honestly, because I mean, quite honestly, this is a case where I don't know if the Giants have enough to build out this year, basically. Um, and then let's not forget, there's Levi now as well too, the quarterback, where he just dropped out of the first round. Um, the Kentucky quarterback, and that's great for me because I think if he's in the sixth round, I think that's perfect for the Giants to pick him up. Why? Here's the reason why. This is a guy, he might have a lot of faults, but at the same time, he'll have that chip on his shoulder. Just like when Brady had that chip on his shoulder, and just like when Warren Sapp had his chip on his shoulder, this kid's gonna have his chip on his shoulder, and he's gonna like go all out to the point like he's gonna be competing against Danny Dimes, and I think he might be able to overtake him at that point. I have a feeling that he might be a little bit better um, than Daniel Jones, but it's hard to say. We'll see if the Giants are able to pick him up. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and unrehearsed. Until next time.